Now let's continue. In this part, I will talk about the requirement capturing process. This process consists of two main steps, as you can see here. The first step is to perform current business process examination. This means you will go to the real environment to find out how the business occurs, the business process are executed. And you need to write the reports about the current business process of that organization, the organization you plan to build the software for. So the result of this step is the reports about the current business process. In step number 2, you will analyze the current status of this process and list all the system requirements for the software. And as you know, there are different types of requirements, functional and non-functional. Functional are subdivided into business requirements and system requirements. Non-functional are subdivided into 3 smaller types. So you need to identify and list all the system requirements over here. The result of this step is the list of requirements of different types. So you will have to perform this action, this step, as well as this one for your final project, the one that you have already chosen for the final project. And next week or this week, you will apply this into your real project. You need to examine the current business process to write the reports about the current business process, as well as list all the requirements for your system, for your software. For the participants, you can have 2 groups. You have computer professionals, this means computer experts, as well as the domain professionals, mean the one who work in the domain area. For example, when you want to build a software for a hospital, you need to work with doctors, nurses, and the managers, etc. So the domain professional. And these 2 types of people will cooperate with each other. The computer professionals, they know well about computer system, and they should also need to know about the domain processes to avoid misunderstanding. This means at least they can understand what the domain professionals say. In the other way, domain professionals, they know really well about their professional job. This means their domain jobs, but they also need to listen to the computer professional to make sure that they can improve their job so that the computer can help them to work more effectively and maybe more precisely in the future when the system are put into use. Here, the methods, I will say you will list the requirement, including the business functional requirements, the system functional requirements, as well as non-functional requirements. And the way to perform the business, the current business examination, you can use the methods and process as listed in the next slides. Here, we have some methods. It's just watch. For example, if you want to know how people borrow books from library, you can just go to the school, the university library, and sit there watching the librarian to work with the students and to find out how the borrowing process or the lending process occurs. So you can take notes, just go and watch. The second one, you can go to meet the expert and perform direct interview. When you ask them about what you want to know about the process, how they finish their job, and what they need uh, for their job, etc. So you just perform an interview. And you can also read the relevant documents. You can also, based on your personal experience or personal knowledge about the domain, so you will have a view about the business process, how the jobs are accomplished. About the process, you can take an overview about the real world business. You can examine the current status of the organization, and you can perform a closer view to current business process. So that is the way you can perform a business process examination. Here, I will talk about some different types of business functional requirements listing. We typically we have 4 different types of functional requirement, business functional requirements, including storage, search, calculation, and reports, as you can see in the previous slide. So you need to identify which kind of job we have, and what types of requirement they belong to. They belong to the storage or calculation or reports. You need to make a list. The second part is a template. This means this table is a kind of template you need to list. For example, the function is mean the requirement, and the time here may be storage. The constraint on the formula, you may have some constraint or some formula to calculate. You may have some sample form. For example, you have a bill, you have a card, so it's a kind of the form, the sample form, and you have some notes over here. You can see this template, this table in the syllabus. You can see in the syllabus. The next list you need to make is the related constraint and formula. That is every requirement here, you might have some constraint or formula code, and you need to describe how the constraint should be verified or should be validated, how the formula is calculated. So that is the way you have another table, list all the constraints and formulas. The next part is the system functional requirements. You also need to have a list. Now go back. What system functional do we have? Go back to the slide over here. Here are the system requirements, functional requirements. You have the environment. The environment will describe which platform or which operating system does your system need to run on. Do you need any simulation? You know simulation? It means you try to mimic, or you try to explain, or you try to visualize some process using the graphical tools. It is called simulation. And automation. Does your system need to work automatically, automatically in some cases, in some features, and the problem about system. I'm sorry. The system authentication as well as the backup and restore problems. So these are the system requirements. And also you have non-functional, or we call another name the non-functional requirements, or just quality requirements. Quality requirements are the same as non-functional requirements. So you should have a table like this: system functional requirement list, including the function, the description, and the constraint, if any, and also another table for the quality requirement list. You also have another table. So after you have identified all the requirements and put it into the tables, you need to make a review for all that you have identified. So we have at least 3 tables over here. The first one is the business functional requirement list. The second one is the system functional requirement list. And the third one is the quality requirement list, or the non-functional requirement list over here. You need to accomplish these 3 tables for your system. About the modeling, you can read more about the modeling principles here. I will go back to this later. You can read. I will skip this part. I will not talk about the 5 principles over here. First one is about the data modeling, the function modeling, the behavior modeling. About modeling partitioning means you divide your model into different levels, and we also have about the core problem examination. That means these are the principle, the basic principles you need to know, you need to remember when you perform the modeling activity. About the FDD as well as the DFD, we will talk more in the next chapters. We have FDDs mean function decompositioning diagram, just like a kind of hierarchy functional scheme. And DFD, we have almost a chapter to talk about the DFD to represent how the data flow runs in the software, in the system, and how it change, how the data change from time to time. So that is the theoretical problems or the theoretical subtopics about how to capture the requirements for a new software that you need to build. About the object-oriented model, you have already known. We use UML, we use the use case-driven model, and we have the actors, the use cases, etc. And we will build the actors as well as the use case diagram after you have finished the first stage, the user requirement capturing stage. After you have the requirement list, you will consider about identifying actors as well as the use cases to build the use case diagrams for the software you are going to build. So that is the theory points I would like to present to you about this chapter.